I grew up in the great Cold War between the United States of America and the Soviet Union. I can still remember hearing about the Cuban Missile Crisis, the air raid practices that we had in school to get into fallout shelters, and the great arms race between East and West. Untold billions of dollars were spent on weapons that, fortunately, have never been used. I can also remember the slogans, better red than dead, and its opposite, better dead than red. Many people in academia, Hollywood, and even politics thought that the Soviet Union had the better political model. There are still those who hang on to the utopian dream of a socialist society. They're convinced that all men can live together in socio-economic equality, something that never really existed in either the old Soviet Union or communist China. Oh, there were equalities, but not to the extreme that these dreamers think. Almost everyone was equally poor. Almost everyone lived in fear. Almost everyone lost their freedom. I say almost in these cases because there was always a ruling elite in the Soviet Union. It was called the Communist Party. Although the members of this elite weren't paid any more than a factory worker, they had a number of privileges that accrued to them. Nicer homes, cars, and the ability to shop in the closed stores by means of their position in society. You see, what makes the economy of a capitalist society strong is this little word called competition. People work harder in order to make more, so that they get benefit out of it. And take that ability to make more away from them, and they have no reason to work harder or longer. In the old Soviet Union, when the sun went down, the farmer went home, even if the harvest wasn't finished. Here in the United States, when the sun goes down, the farmer turns on the lights on his tractor and keeps working so he can get all the harvest in on time. Without the reward of personal benefit from working harder or longer, there really isn't a reason for people to do so. Proponents of socialism as the perfect political model complain that others are just too selfish, not willing enough to work for the common good. According to these people, if the general population wasn't so selfish and greedy, socialism would work perfectly. But you know, I have never seen any of them lift a finger to work harder without somebody paying them to do so. In fact, I don't remember any of them working harder, even if somebody did pay them to do so. Other than the few academics that are out of touch with the real world, outside of their ivory towers, and politicians who are trying to buy the love of the masses, the only people who support socialism today are people who are looking for a free handout. To them, socialism is a way to get the rich to finance their lifestyle of drugs, alcohol, and parties. In the second chapter of the book of Acts in the Christian Bible, we find the birth of the church. At the end of this chapter, it talks about people willingly selling what they had in order to help other Christians in need. This isn't socialism. It wasn't forced upon them by the government or the church. It's an integral part of Christianity. Many of the organizations or societies that help the poor are Christian organizations. Why? Because the Bible teaches that we should help the poor. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that Christians are required by God to give up everything they have to the poor and become poor themselves, nor does it mean that everyone is to be economically equal. It only means that many Christians are moved with compassion to help the poor. In reality, this seems to me like a much better system. Why make everyone equally poor by taking everything away from those who have? Wouldn't it be better for God to move upon people's hearts to help others as an act of Christian love? I'm Rich Murphy, and that's the way I see it.